on to top construction. So here we have the top that we glued up last time with tight bonds and some craft paper or brown paper bag material in the middle as a parting agent. All right, so, and probably it's, notice that it says blue. In the mid-90s, a collector named Scott Chinnery commissioned a whole bunch of blue archtop guitars. I think there were 22 of them ultimately, and they were a tribute to a guitar that he had ordered from Jimmy DeQuisto. Yeah, and this happened after Jimmy died in 1995. At the time, I was running Parker Guitars, and I didn't have time to scratch my head, let alone build a blue 18-inch archtop guitar for them. So I declined the order. But now there's a new owner of this collection, the Archtop Foundation, and I've been commissioned to make a blue guitar. Happy to tell you this will be the top for that guitar. So that'll be fun. Now, this top is about an inch thick now. And it's very well sawn by Pacific Rim Tone Woods, but I think I'm going to try and just take a little bit of a cut on it. Probably unnecessary, but I'm going to just straighten it out. After all, we don't need a whole inch of thickness. At least I don't need for the model that I'm making. It's closer to about 3/4. But I'd like to get a clean surface on this. We're going to take a little bit of material off of this just to straighten it out. And I'm going to use this plane that it's a number 6 Stanley plane, and it has an iron in it that I deliberately ground to a little arc. Let's see if I take off some more material than that. There we go. So I won't bore you with this whole thing, but we're going to just get a good surface on this. As you can see, the ends are a little high. We're cutting across the grain. Anytime you want to remove a lot of material, you want to cut across the grain. It's easier to remove material across grain. And you can see we're still getting nice shavings. Look at that beautiful material. And we're getting a pretty good surface. Not bad. Okay? Even though it tears a little bit across the grain, you can see the tear out is quite minor. It's not going to be a problem. And of course we could, since we know these edges are high, we could take some off now like this. But really the main kind of cut would be cross grain. This is basic woodworking. And so on. Okay. Well, I was only off camera for a few minutes, as it turns out. Nice sharp planes. They're making quick work of this. So I'll check the corners here in the middle. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's nice if it's pretty good. Looks like we got a little bump right here. Oh, just a word about planing. You can now you can buy all kinds of new planes, and I don't really have any to show you, but from Lee Valley and Lee Nielsen, both excellent companies that make beautiful, beautiful planes. I prefer these antique Stanley or Bailey planes. They're made here in America. They're professional tools. These were not for hobbyists. These were for furniture makers, cabinet makers, house builders, whatever. We like these because they're lightweight, and that is because the Stanley Company really knew how to cast iron. I mean, these things are just gorgeous castings, and they were seasoned appropriately, which means that after the casting is made, the plane is put in a pile, usually outside in the weather, to just sit and relax for who knows how long, a couple of years maybe, so that any stresses in the casting can be relieved before there's precision machining done to true up these surfaces, and also the contact surface where the frog attaches to the plane body. The frog is the intermediate casting that attaches the blade assembly to the body. So I'm not going to get way into this, because if you go on YouTube, of course, you can find a zillion smart people that are going to show you all about these planes and how they work, how to set them, how to true up an old one, how to modify an old one. But I will just say that in terms of doing something like this, where we're trying to take a little material off and get a nice surface, these are two planes that make sense to me. Now this one is a number 6. A number 6 plane, which is, what is this? I don't know, maybe 18 inches long. This is a number 8, it's 24 inches long. This is the one I use for cutting the center joint. And this one is lighter and easier to use if you've got to use it a lot, which is what what you might do if you were going to try and do, dimension pieces of softwood or even figured hardwoods by hand. And whereas the iron in this plane blade, I take great pains to make perfectly straight across. And you can see the result of that. That's the last plane I just used here. The result of that is that it necessarily makes some little mark where the iron ends, right? Whereas this plane that I used for the first material removal has a curved edge. I deliberately curved the edge a little bit. It's not very much. I don't know. I didn't measure it, but let's say it's the middle of the plane might be 20 thousandths of an inch or half a millimeter longer than the two edges, so that it sticks out a lot in the middle and hardly at all over here. So that lets us that was taking these shavings, which, as you can probably see, are not as wide as the blade, right? But it's an efficient shape. It doesn't make a mess at the corners. So if you had a straight iron here, it would be tearing up and making big, ugly grooves at the corners of the iron if you set it for a big cut like this. So in planing, this is a big cut, and this is kind of a little cut. They're both across the grain. Like I said, more efficient stock removal across the grain. By the way, in any material, in any wooden material with any device, in other words, if you're sanding and you want to sand off a lot of material, it's quicker to sand across the grain than it is along the grain, just because the way the wood fibers are cut. Anyhow, so we've taken off 2.5 millimeters, 100 thousandths or so from this surface, and we're pretty well done. Going to take out this little high spot here. Okay, so let's have a look now. Okay, well, it's all within about 20 thousandths or 0.5 millimeter, which is fine for what we're doing, since this is just a tooling surface, really, a reference surface. Anyhow, that's it.